Holy shamoly, stock market meltdown in the works today. Guys, we had a big reversal today in the stock market. The market did what it's really been doing for quite some time, so it's not a big surprise, but the veracity, the velocity, the emotional intention of it was still like, it's jarring to see. And so let's get into this. What's happening in the stock market and what's the play? First of all, right now is not the time to be just bottom fishing. There are a lot of bloated stocks out there that have long ways to come. If you look at just past kind of big market swooshes after like a period of run up, you know, in 2022, if you guys remember, I mean, stocks dropped like 50, 60, 70, 80%. Now, will we get that? No, probably, once this kind of, once this kind of shakeout happens, we'll probably be, kind of grinding back or something like that. But like, we had this in August. It's not a surprise, right? Like these things happen every few months. In August, we went from 504, right, to 420. So we just lost 80 points, right? Here, we've lost 50 points. So, even 30 more points would just take us to where we were at, kind of that August pullback. But it feels always nastier when it does. But this is probably not the time to be bottom fishing too much, all right? The price action has been nasty, and we've got to, respect that. If you look at, just the news cycle, right, it's like this is what's kind of adding all that uncertainty, right? It's like China poses UF tariffs. China calls on U.S. to return. It's like just nonstop, right? Like tariffs. And so, if you start looking around, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock when these things start to happen, it's like the news cycle just starts to be like Trump said this, Trump said that. And, before you know it, like the market will start to just go, crazy. And we've had this nonstop. It's just like a news cycle. And does it matter? Probably not. The market was probably going to do some type of pullback anyways. We had been in a big, long kind of basing period of distribution for quite some time. If you kind of look over here, right? There have been some signs of distribution. But the question now becomes, where do we go? What do we do? So we're at the 200-day moving average almost. I think that's, that's the level that needs to get defended. And you may break under it, by the way. You could see in August, we actually broke under it, and then, we reversed, and then we kind of started up. So don't just sit there with a bunch of orders and, go full port at the 200-day moving average. You may break under. You may even break under for a couple days, but it is a level that's been holding for, right, a few years. And if you look on the SPY, as we get closer to it, it's a level that's also been holding, for a few years. But on the SPY, it does undercut a little bit for even a few days. So we're not out of the woods. And look, if you really look at the SPY's only dropped about 30 points, right? Not even 30 points. So it's not like, we've dropped that much. The indexes have held up a lot more. It's the individual carnage that's been a little bit like, whew, right? That kind of hits the eye test. And then the price action has been really nasty. So, today there was all sorts of gap ups, right? You had Hood. Dude, my buddy who was knee deep in this, Tarun, he had 1,200 calls for a swing on this, right, in this Hood. And it was like, he couldn't sell out fast enough. There wasn't enough liquidity to sell out fast enough, right? By the time you start done selling, it's like, and, so you're up 10%. And then, right, you finished down to 46, right? So it's a 10-point turnaround. And you saw that just like, nonstop, right? SMCI was at 42, right? And that's like, you just gap up and you go through. MBIS, look at this thing. It opens up strong, right? And then just completely reverses. So that's the price action that's been happening right now. The market is basically, guilty till proven innocent. We need to see it hold at that 200-day moving average. If that happens, then, we can start digging through, on the long side, and I think the telltale sign, look at the big gaps in MSTR. They got sold off fast, right? The big gap in BTC, right? This Trump pump on the BTC. Dude, that's a nasty little pullback, right? Like nasty little pullback. And look at the depth of, right, how much it's dropped. So and that took all these stocks down with it. So this is risk off. Like when these gaps can't even hold, it's one thing to just fill the gap or something, but they're going rolling red the whole way, right? So that's a nasty price action. This is not a time to be the hero. You scalp around for some gains, you fade gaps, and anytime you long, it's got to be in big, like mean reversion extensions, right? Like a big juicy setup. That's the only time. And so till then, we'll just kind of keep shorting and scalping around. So your watch list is probably got to be pretty simple. I think for tomorrow, we got this Dell. We broke under this 100 today. And nasty little thing, right? It's been kind of fading off at this 200-day moving average for quite some time. You're right, similar to Qualcomm, right? See how like every pop to the 200-day moving average has been fading off, right? I think both of these got kind of breakdowns in the works, and they all look the same, right? So this has got a 150 breakdown here. MU. Right, similar kind of look here. If it kind of can speed up and get down into here, then you've got a lot of airspace underneath. And I think the telltale sign, right? Trump announced that news today on the manufacturing in Arizona, and right, even TSM still got just smoked out, right? Like smoked out, broke under the 200, and it's not even bouncing through. So down 4%. So there's nowhere to really hide. Look at Smarv, right? Down 10% today. Aklo, right? Down 14% today, 12%, I mean, right? And 14% after hours. But this is so they're not even holding, right, these things. So I think that's where you want to be careful. Like this bottom picking is not going to necessarily work because the bounces are just too light and they're not holding while these MAs are down. So you just got to wait it out and trade really liquid names, if you're going to long. But I'd be surprised if some of this stuff starts to hold, right? Like Meta's holding here, Tesla's holding at its MAs. But dude, you don't want to see these kind of reversals. Like this was $300. That's a $30 reversal almost. That's not, a bullish thing. So all these gaps are fading off. I think the market's just guilty till proven innocent. What I would say is that you just keep a handful of these kind of larger names that are going to be liquid. Like this moved 8% today. So, this is going to give you the range you need, to kind of trade things back and forth, right? It's like, you got a level here that it's probably going to, could break down tomorrow. So we've got some spots here. I think, NVIDIA, Dell, Qualcomm, all of these got some levels that we can trade around. And, frankly, if the market comes in and tests, and holds the QQQ, what I'll probably do rather than, mess around with too many stocks, I'll go in maybe 2 days out on the 500 calls or something like that, and just play the market that way. I think that is probably a little bit easier than, trying to fart around with all these kind of random stocks because you just don't, they all look like, crap, right? Like all of these are looking like breakdowns, but they're also on support, if you needed to bounce them, but we're just not seeing any sign that that's coming. So I think, for me, it's like if the QQQ holds at the 200-day moving average, I'll long the futures contract and then I'll do some calls, the 500 calls and, go a little bit out and, we'll roll in for some fun. I think everything else you just kind of leave alone because it's all just a big, it's all just looking like a big bear flag, right? And look, if the market bounces, they'll all just go together anyways. And so, you can kind of pick off a couple of these things. So moral of the story is, just trade the really liquid names. They're all going to move together. It doesn't matter. You can get into the index if you need to, put some chutzpah on some things and dude, just trade safe. Dude, my watch list is it's like a damn crime scene, 13%, 12%, 11%, right? There's nowhere to hide right now. So that's okay. These things end a lot faster than you think, a few more weeks of this, the market will flush everything out. You'll build some new bases. You'll have new stocks emerge. It's not a big deal. This stuff happens all the time. And frankly, the more destruction, the better. Do you really want to buy all these stocks up at $400, $500, $800? No, let them come back down, baby, right? Let them come back down. All right. I love you guys. Peace.